Hello, everyone. So now we are moving to the final 3 weeks for the semester. So we have finished already 3/4 of the semester. Time really flies, but we still got important materials to cover as usual. Let's now go over the introduction for this week and also what you're supposed to complete as work items. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the lectures. I managed to go strictly below 3 hours this week. Hopefully they can compensate the few minutes that's actually overdue from last week. But anyway, on average, it's about 3 hours. If you have concerned about the lecture hours, I've been trying very hard to really keep just around the 3 hours for every week. Okay, for this week, there are actually two parts for the lecture. The first part will be basically the 10A. Okay, so this part over here is about a subject called subcontracting. I will give you a little bit more idea when I move on to the milestone. So the first part is about contract and inheritance. So we talk about these type of contracts in the very beginning of the semester, and then we talk about the review of the inheritance after the reading week, and now we try to combine these two together to see how the contract will actually work in the context of inheritance. We talk about statically how you prove things and also dynamically how you track things for runtime. Okay, we'll talk about it in the first part. For the second part, we'll talk about another design pattern, which is called the composite design pattern. Okay, it's actually a part one of a series of the patterns, which is called visitor, which we'll cover in week 11. But for this week, we just handle the composite design pattern first. Okay, so one design pattern and one theory about subcontracting. That's about this week. As usual, I also make available for my iPad notes. You can take a look if you want to redo the illustration. I think that will help on your understanding. And then for the slides, we got part one for subcontracting, and also we got part two for the composite design pattern. And also make available to you the design architecture for subcontracting, and also the two diagrams for the composite design patterns. Okay. And as usual, please post your question on the Google Doc. If you don't really feel yourself prepared before the Q&A, you're more than welcome to come to the Q&A. I'm prepared. I'm more than happy to see you, okay, in the Q&A. Okay, about the source code. So this part here is really to illustrate one of the special cases where the precondition in the child class is simply equivalent to false. And that one, this source code over here is not really mentioned in the slides, but this one is actually for your self-study. So that's why I say supplementary to the slides. If I have time in the Q&A, I might be able to guide you through a little bit about understanding this code, but you will be expected to study this code yourself. And then for the composite design pattern, I also include a source code which I discussed in the lecture. Okay, so that's about the study materials for this week. Let's take a look at the milestone very quickly, and also the learning objectives. So the first one is called subcontracting. Okay, so we're going to talk about static versus dynamic. So whenever I talk about static, so that means you're going to do some proof or disproof by using a counterexample. And the dynamic is really about runtime. So these are two orthogonal aspects that you don't want to get confused about yourself. So try to study these two aspects separately, and then try to connect them together. So that's how I will advise. You will see that as you flow through the lecture. Okay, and the second part is about recursive system. So remember last week when we talked about observer and also interactive system, we talked about distributed client server system. And in even the previous week, we talked about the state design pattern, in which case we are trying to solve the problem for interactive system. And this week, we are trying to solve recursive system. Okay, you will see exactly what recursive system is when you get to the part of the lecture. And since it's recursive, like how you write recursion in your previous course. So it's going to be about base case and also recursive cases, right? You will see exactly what I meant once you go to the architecture and runtime. We'll talk about two possible design attempts. 1 and 2, you should really try to study these two carefully before you can appreciate the final ultimate solution for the composite design pattern. So the first one violates cohesion, and the second one violates single choice principle. They are nice case study for you to practice if you can judge any given design by the well-proven design principle. Okay, these two. And then before we finally talk about the composite design pattern, we talk about the multiple inheritance. which is a very useful design construct that's available in iPhone. I also spoke about a little bit about how you can support this to a very limited extent in Java. Okay, you can take a look. And also, finally, we can talk about the composite design pattern. We'll talk about its static architecture, talk about its implementation, and talk about testing it at the runtime. And also tracing it using a stack because it's like a recursive call. Okay, what should you complete this week? You should really keep working on the project. Don't forget, phase number 1 is actually due very soon on November 25th, right? You can look up the deadline. And you're going to complete the week number 9 quiz, and also you're going to start the week series number 10, right? So this will be our third last lecture series for the semester. We got 2 more to come. All right, so off you go. You know pretty much what to expect. Remember, the only programming assignment left for the course is the project. So please make sure you dedicate enough time to really take advantage of the learning opportunity for you to come up with your own design and try to apply any design patterns if applicable. All right, any problem of studying, please get in touch with me as ever. Okay, good luck, and then I'll speak to you later. Take care.